Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee in practice Tuesday, leaving his status for the season opener Thursday in doubt. Head coach Andy Reid said Kelce was being looked at by team personnel but did not provide other updates. The four-time All-Pro caught a career-high 110 passes for over 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns last season. He hasn't missed the game because of injury since his rookie season in 2013. Should the Chiefs be without Kelce for any length of time, they'll be missing last season's leading receiving yards leader for the tight ends. Kelce also led all tight ends with 12 touchdown catches last season.
Good guy, that Mike Garafolo.
The summer has ended, and Mike Garafolo is tanned, rested, and ready for the National Football League season. He joins us every week from the NFL Network. Always great to see you. Mike, first of all, how was your summer? Just frolicking in the sand dunes, I imagine.
Frolicking everywhere. I love to frolic. I'm a big frolicker. I'm a big skipper. So just imagine me doing that for, I don't know, 8 to 10 weeks, waiting for the NFL season to begin. And here we almost are, Jay.
Yes, here we almost are, Mike. And shocking news out of Kansas City. Now, this is a big development. What can you tell us about Travis Kelce's injury? What can you tell us about his status for Thursday night season opener?
So he hyperextended his knee in practice on Tuesday, and I saw some people on Twitter, well, he only hyperextended. It's only just a hyperextension. Hyperextension is what happens to the knee. The knee usually bends this way. Hyperextension means it was bent inward. Now, that can lead to a number of things, anywhere from a bone bruise up to and including an ACL injury. But early indications were that it was not believed to be a serious injury, and that is pretty much where we are right now. Now, like I said, it can lead to things other than ligament damage. So I think he's extremely questionable for this game on Thursday. But the good news is this is not a long-term issue for Travis Kelce. So even if he misses this game, he'll have a long layoff before the next game. And should he even miss that one, I don't imagine this is something that's going to extend for multiple weeks. So it seems like it's going to be a short absence for Travis Kelce. That is a great thing for him, for the Chiefs, and for Travis Kelce fantasy owners, of which one I am not. We just had our draft tonight. I didn't get Kelce. I had the #1 overall pick. I went Christian McCaffrey. Nobody cares about your fantasy draft.
That's true. No one does. But I do appreciate the extra information. I will say the Detroit Lions might be the only, them and their fans might be the only people happy about this Kelce situation because despite the fact that Detroit, they're favorites to win the North, which is just incredible when you think about it. They are 5.5-point underdogs to these Chiefs on Thursday night, according to our friends at FanDuel. So what is Detroit's mentality? There's been so much hype about Detroit this offseason, Mike, as you know. What's their mentality going into this season opener?
Dan Campbell started it when the schedule came out, and he was on our Good Morning Football on NFL Network, and he said, I guess that means the NFL is saying, well, at least these guys won't get their butts kicked. Now, obviously, it's about more than that. It's about more than just staying competitive. They want to win this football game. They've got high expectations, especially after ending the season on a high note, beating the Packers in a game that meant nothing toward their postseason. They knew they were eliminated. They won that game anyway. I think that went a long way toward the NFL saying, you know what, we're going to reward you for keeping that game competitive and winning that game. We're going to reward you with the first game this season. Now, the expectations are high for the Lions. They have a season ticket waiting list for the first time in the history of the franchise. They believe, they don't know that for sure, but they believe that that's the case. So the expectations are high locally. The expectations are high nationally. But when I spoke to Campbell at training camp, he said, I'm just trying to let these guys know this is all great that we have these expectations and belief in ourselves. We didn't make the playoffs last year. We didn't win the division. We still have to realize that there is still work to do and to stay hungry. So Campbell believes they are still hungry. We'll see right away if that hunger exists for the Lions.
I can't wait to see Dan Campbell on the sidelines and after the game, win or lose. He's so entertaining. You talked about high expectations. Yeah. There's always high expectations in New York, even though the Jets haven't been good for a long time. But now they've got Aaron Rodgers. You've been following Rodgers and his adjustment to this Jets offense at his second NFL team. Are you buying the hype with Rodgers and the Jets, Mike?
I am. The more that I'm around this team, the more I'm believing that Aaron Rodgers needed this break from the Packers, needed a new, fresh start, and went to a team that has a lot of confidence, has a lot of swagger, had a lot of attitude. They had it already. I was covering this team closely last year saying they are just a quarterback away. And not only do I think that they're a quarterback away from being good, I think they're a quarterback away from being entertaining. And so here we are. And I know that a lot of people say, oh, every time the team that we hype up in the offseason and in training camp, that team usually disappoints. I don't think so. I think that's just something that people say. There are teams that have gone out and made big additions in the offseason, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers being one of them a couple of years ago, and went on to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl, but I am buying the hype that this team is complete enough to compete in the AFC and that Rodgers is going to have this career renaissance. There's too much talent here for me, and there's too much of a Aaron Rodgers leadership and energy factor here. I'm with it all the way. I think the Jets are in the postseason, and they could win multiple games in the postseason. Not putting them in the Super Bowl yet, but could win multiple games.
And then in Green Bay, Rodgers' old team, the Jordan Love era begins. You know, we remember when it was Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, the transition was so seamless, it was almost scary. Could we have a similar situation now that Love has had all this time to percolate behind Rodgers the last couple of seasons after being drafted?
I'm glad you mentioned that. A Green Bay Packers front office official mentioned to me at one point this offseason, he says, you know, we weren't sure that we had a great one in Aaron Rodgers when we moved on from Brett Favre to him, but we felt pretty good about it. And he said, right now, we're not sure that we've got a really good one in Jordan Love, but we feel pretty good about it. So the same kind of feelings right now for the Green Bay Packers. And, you know, that game that he played last year against the Eagles, that was a different Jordan Love than we had seen before. The way that he came in, the way that he took ownership, the way that he had that offense humming, the way that he was seeing the field. The Packers really believe that some of these some of the analysis of what he's done in training camp or whatever this summer has not been with a full understanding of what they're trying to accomplish in training camp. They believe he's going to hit the ground running. If it's the guy that we saw against the Eagles, I believe Jordan Love is going to show a lot of people that are down on him right now that he is ready to be an NFL quarterback.
Mike, we cannot have a lengthy conversation about the National Football League and not include the Dallas Cowboys. It's not possible. We just cannot do it, not as a television network in North America. So we will talk about the Cowboys, and we will talk about their somewhat bizarre quarterback situation. You've got Dak Prescott there, and last week, Jerry Jones goes out and trades for Trey Lance. Is this in any way connected? Dak Prescott's future with the Cowboys, is it any way connected to this Trey Lance acquisition from San Francisco?
They're saying no, and I don't believe so either. I believe Dak Prescott is going to sign at least one more contract with the Dallas Cowboys. Could be during the season, could be after the season. I know that there was a thought that maybe there would be a bigger push to get it done before the season. That has not happened. And I think that the Cowboys offense is going to be a lot sharper under Mike McCarthy, now calling plays again for them. To get that running game going and to work off of the running game. I think Dak Prescott's going to have a really good season in 2023. Again, sign that extension. It was more for the Cowboys about value for Trey Lance if they can get him. And listen, the worst case scenario, you get him out there, he plays a little bit, whether it's in the preseason or whatever, and just shows people that he's kind of like Jordan Love. In a little bit of action, all of a sudden, this is a different guy we're seeing. Now you can turn that fifth-round pick, whatever they traded for him, into something much higher. That's the worst case scenario. And then who knows? If something happens with Dak Prescott and he does tail off, then you've got a guy that could potentially be the successor already in-house. But I believe that that's almost the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, whatever you want to call it. Right now, the focus for the Cowboys is Dak Prescott now and for the future.
Let's talk about Bill Belichick and the Patriots. At the beginning of training camp, Mike, Belichick said that each and every player on this roster would be competing for a starting job, and he included Mac Jones, the young quarterback, in that process. What is Belichick and the Patriots' confidence level in Jones as we head into week one?
Mac Jones was competing with Bailey Zappi. There's no question about it. Now, he won that competition in large part because Zappi kind of went backwards this offseason and really hasn't clicked with the new coaching staff with Bill O'Brien, on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see about Zappi for now, but the hope is that Mac Jones has really come along under Bill O'Brien and will now perform better in games. I want to see it to believe it. You would hope that an experienced play caller and a guy that's been around and helped some quarterbacks along the way would lead to a bit of a resurgence from Mac Jones as opposed to last year with Matt Patricia. We know that working relationship was not great. We saw Jones during games barking at him. Now, there could be a little bit of that as well with Bill O'Brien, who at one point barked on the sideline with Tom Brady. So it's not that sideline friction is the be-all and end-all, but the hope is that there's a better understanding of what they're trying to do with Mac Jones, who has a couple of tough tests, the Patriots do, right out of the gate with Tom Brady in the house to face the Eagles in Week 1 and the Dolphins in Week 2, and the schedule is difficult, perhaps the toughest in the NFL all the way through. So Mac Jones really got to show it. Patriots really got to show it. Robert Kraft already talking this offseason about a potential succession plan at the head coaching position. The Patriots are a fascinating storyline for multiple reasons this season.
They are, Mike, but maybe the most fascinating franchise to me right now is the Denver Broncos, because this is a storied franchise with so much success, and they bring Russell Wilson in last year to be their starting quarterback, and it's an all-out disaster. It's Wilson's worst season of his entire career, but in the offseason, they defy the odds and get the coach that everybody wanted in Sean Payton. Can Sean Payton turn things around for Russell Wilson, Mike?
Boy, Russell Wilson better hope so, because if this doesn't work out, now he's got a contract that still has guarantees that are going to trigger going forward, and that's why this is a big season for Russell Wilson, because at some point, you may have to say it's a sunk cost, and we don't want to continue to trigger these guarantees, even though they already have some on the books for beyond 2023. I don't know that Sean Payton is supremely confident. I mean, I go back to that article that had the comments about Nathaniel Hackett and the previous coaching regime, and the consensus around the league is what he was saying there was kind of giving himself an out already for how bad things were there, not just for the entire team and for the locker room, but for the quarterback position, which is the most important. So I don't know if we're going to see it from Russell Wilson all of a sudden go back to the guy that we saw in Seattle, because I talked to talent evaluators, and they say he doesn't have that wiggle anymore. And that really helped him not only in escaping and scrambling, but also creating throwing windows, because he's not the biggest guy. So when you can't move quickly to get that pass rush maybe out of their lanes, and then all of a sudden you've got those lanes to throw into. If you don't have that as a shorter guy, you're in trouble, and a lot of people thought that fell off last year. So keep an eye on it. We'll see. I'm a bit skeptical right now, Jay.
I've got one more for you, and it's about contract extensions. There are some big names eligible, Mike, to sign contract extensions. I'm talking about Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, maybe the best young quarterback in the game. How about the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa? Do you think either of those deals or other deals that you're looking at get done soon, maybe over the next couple of days?
We've got a lot of them. Brian Burns, another guy, the Panthers pass rusher off the top of my head. Chris Jones, which seems like for the Chiefs, that's going to go on for quite some time. But we'll keep an eye on that one for you. As for the two you mentioned, Nick Bosa, Joe Burrow, both represented by the same agent. And he has been willing, the agent, Brian Aaron, to take it up to deadlines and take it beyond deadlines in the past. He had Zach Wilson holding out from training camp a couple of years ago. He's had a number of guys where he's taken it right up to that deadline. So it's hard to project, but I would say that at least one of them gets done. Now, Bosa's got to get done quickly, because he's got to get in to camp. He's got to get, or it's not even camp anymore. We were beyond that. He's got to get into practice if he wants to play this weekend. They would love to get him some reps as the week goes on. So his deadline is pretty much now, and something needs to get done. Sounds like they're close enough that something should be able to get done. The question is how late in the week, if it's done before the game. As for Burrow, there's no deadline except for doing it on Saturday if he wants to have it done before he steps on the field this season. He is going to play regardless. I've heard nothing but from the beginning good reports as far as his calf injury and recovering from that. He's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL at some point. If I'm him, let's just get it done on Saturday, the last possible chance to do it. So stay tuned for that. I think both have a shot of getting done before their games kick off on Sunday.
Boy, you would never know that this guy was frolicking for 8 weeks in the sand dunes, in the eastern part of the United States, because he came and brought it big time.
Is this a frolic?
That's how it does, and that's just a preview of the frolicking. We'll maybe try to get some footage of that for future editions of this program. Mike Garafolo, you're the best. Enjoy the opener on Thursday, and we will talk to you next week, my friend.
Great to be back. Great to see you, Jay. Let's go football.
All right, let's go football. Let's talk about the odds for the kickoff game Thursday night. Powered by FanDuel. KC, as I mentioned earlier, 5.5-point favorites at home. They were 6.5-point favorites prior to the Travis Kelce injury. KC has not lost a season opener since 2014. Remember, our show, SportsCenter with Jay Onrait immediately follows this Thursday night season opener on this network.